Hi, Dan Thies here for the Marketer's Brain Trust, and today I'm going to show you a simple method that you can use to immediately improve the ROI from your Google AdWords campaigns. Now, it won't be instant because you're going to have to do a little bit of work inside of your AdWords account, and you're going to have to know the numbers on your business, which means you might have to do a little bit of math before you're ready to start. But if you can do that, you really should be able to rapidly improve the ROI from your Google AdWords campaigns by 20% or more. Of course, it depends a little bit on what improving ROI means to you. What is your goal anyway? Are you trying to improve the profitability of your campaigns more than you're trying to improve the volume, for example? So for retailers, if you're just trying to get more profitable, that would be trying to improve the revenue over ad spend. That is perhaps to go from spending $1 to get $5 in sales and turn that same dollar into $6 in sales. That would be a 20% improvement in ROI for you. For lead generators, it might be something as simple as taking a $12 cost per lead down to a $10 cost per lead. And if you are a lead generator and you actually do lead scoring, which you really should look into doing, and you actually have a lead value assigned for different types of leads that come in and maybe take different actions on your site, that kind of scoring is actually something that we look at in exactly the same way that we look at it as a retailer. We use lead value divided by cost, which is really the same thing as revenue over ad spend. Now, you might also simply look at, well, I'd like to be able to run the same revenue over ad spend or the same cost per action, but simply get more of them, and you can do that too. So for retailers, this means you could focus on getting more sales rather than improving the margin on each sale. For lead generators, it might mean that you're focusing on either getting more high value leads or on simply getting more leads total. Regardless of what your goal is, we should be able to improve that with the simple process that I'm going to walk you through today. Of course, before we can start, we have to make sure that you're actually keeping score and tracking conversions, and you'd prefer that that data is actually going back into Google AdWords. So for retailers, most of the time what we want to use is actually to use the transaction data that comes from Google Analytics, and you can hook that up under the Conversions tab in your AdWords account and connect that to your Analytics account. Now, that data is delayed, and so you don't want to look at, say, the last 2 days worth of data because you simply won't have all of your conversions in. You can also use an AdWords conversion tracking pixel if you've got it set up to track revenue, and that actually is much closer to real time than the 2 day delay that you get with Google Analytics. And the most important thing, and a mistake that a lot of folks make as retailers, is to only count unique conversions. In fact, that's already dealt with in terms of not counting the same transaction twice when you use Google Analytics. And so you want to set it to count all conversions, and that means that if somebody clicks your ad and then makes a transaction and then comes back and makes another transaction, it'll count both of those transactions as part of the click from that ad. For lead generators, we also do like to use goal conversions from Google Analytics, which are delayed, but sometimes we can't do that. Sometimes we'd also like to use just the AdWords conversion tracking pixel, and again, if possible, you'd like to score that lead and associate a value with it. But with lead generation, typically somebody is not going to fill out your mortgage quote form twice, and so you want to only count unique conversions. And we often see the mistake made that people are counting all conversions. And so when someone does reload a conversion page, in a lot of cases, they're counted twice, even though it was really only one conversion. And of course, if you can score your leads and actually put a value on them, that would be very good. In fact, in some cases with clients, we actually have lead scoring data coming back from CRM systems like Salesforce, and then we can import that as conversions into Google AdWords. So the process that I'm going to take you to is what we call internally at the Marketer's Brain Trust grouping by label. And this is something that you can do fairly quickly and fairly easily, and it doesn't require you to really have a whole lot of technical understanding of AdWords in order to make use of it. Group A, it would be things like campaigns, keywords, ad groups, and ads that are earning lots of money fast. Then you would have a group B, which is things that are earning money but not quite as fast. And then group C is things that are losing money fast. And group D is things that are losing money slowly. And you're probably going to have some of these things that you're going to find as you go through this analysis in your campaigns. And that's where a lot of your immediate gain in ROI is going to come from, is just getting rid of or fixing things that are in group C and group D. If you're not familiar with labeling, it's just a feature of the Google AdWords interface, and we'll show you step by step how to put labels on things. We're going to put labels on all of your campaigns, and even if there's only one campaign, we're still going to label that as an A, B, C, or D. We're going to label all of the ad groups that you have. We're going to label all of the keywords that you're using, and we're even going to go through and label every single ad that you've been running so that you can identify which ones are working better and which ones are not working as well. Now, labeling is just the first part of the operation, but it lets you do some important things. First of all, it lets you do what we call what if scenarios. So you can look at it and say, well, what would happen to my profitability if I got rid of all the group D ad groups, or if I stopped running all of the group C ad groups, or if I improved the profitability of my group C ad groups by 20%, what would that do? And then you can go back and actually look at, in a group C ad group, well, which of the ads or which of the keywords is dragging the performance down? Because in a lot of cases, you can move something from group C all the way up to group A simply by improving one or more of the elements that's happening within that ad group. And this process lets you identify those things and quickly get to work on the most important ones. So, if you're with me so far, let's talk about how we're going to define these labels. Now, when we talk about high volume of conversions, we're not really talking about a ton of conversions, but we're talking about enough to have a reasonable level of confidence that we should expect to see similar performance going forward. So, for that, we look for the number of conversions within an ad group campaign or with a keyword or with an ad to be greater than or equal to 5. So 5 or more conversions. For the ROI, revenue over ad spend, or the cost per action, we want that to be better than whatever our benchmark performance is. Now, this is something that you're either going to have to decide based on the realities of your business, like I need to do 400% revenue over ad spend in order to make a profit or to break even, or I need my cost per lead to be below $12 cost per lead. Or you can simply look at what's the average performance across the entire account and then just look at the things that are adding to that and things that are subtracting from that. Group C is things that have 5 or more conversions, but the ROI is not performing up to the benchmark. Group B is things where we have more than one conversion, but less than 5. So we're not entirely confident that that performance is going to improve, and there's not a whole lot of volume there. But again, the stuff that's doing better than your benchmark is. And then Group D is stuff that's 1 to 5 conversions and performing worse than your benchmark. So let's look at a couple of examples, and we'll start with a retailer. Now, in AdWords, they don't have a revenue over ad spend, but they have something called conversion value over cost, which is exactly the same thing. And so what we're going to do is to start with, let's label your campaigns. So go to the campaigns tab, look at all of your enabled campaigns, everything that you're running, and then go to the filter menu to create a filter. And you're going to want to create a filter that has conversions greater than or equal to 5 and conversion value over cost greater than whatever your benchmark is. In this case, for this particular client, their benchmark is 4.8 conversion value over cost, which is the same thing as 480% or $4.80 in revenue for every dollar in ad spend. Then we're going to go down to the little checkbox at the right below the Add a Campaign button to select all of our campaigns that are caught by that filter. So we apply the filter and then we check all those campaigns, and then we go to the label menu, and we're going to either pick, if we've already got it created, or we're going to create a label called Group A, and then we're going to apply that label to all of those campaigns. And so now all of our campaigns that have more than 5 conversions and have a performance above our target ROI are labeled with Group A. In our next example, we're looking at one of our lead generation clients, and in this case, their actual target cost per lead is around $90, but we, as a benchmark, our average right now is around $58.33. And so what we're doing here is we're setting up a filter, so any campaign that has more than 5 conversions, or sorry, 5 or more conversions, and a cost per conversion less than $58.33. Then the same thing, we check all of those after we've applied the filter, and we apply that Group A label to them. And now all of our campaigns that have more than 5 conversions, 5 or more conversions, and have a better than average cost per lead are labeled with Group A. So that's how you set up Group A on your campaigns. Then we'll go through and do Group B, which would be conversions greater than 1, conversions less than 5, and so that gets your filter set up so that you've got the right number of conversions counted. And then you're going to want to do everything that has either the conversion value over cost better than your benchmark, or your cost per action, your cost per conversion less than your benchmark. Group C would be things where your cost per action or your ROI are worse and you have more than 5 conversions. So it's very similar to Group A. It's just opposite in terms of whether it's better or worse than your benchmark performance. And then Group D is just like Group B, except it's, well, the opposite. And you're looking at things that are worse than your benchmark performance. Now again, you're going to want to go through and label all of your campaigns, and then go to the Ad Groups tab and label all of your ad groups. And then you're going to want to go to the Keywords tab and label all of your keywords, and there may be a lot of them. and go to the ads tab and label all of the ads in your account. You don't need to drill down into each individual ad group and campaign because we're just putting labels on these things based on their overall performance against our benchmark. And then we'll be able to go back in later and drill down and see which of our ads or keywords are performing better or worse. Now, there are a couple of extra labels that we use that you don't necessarily need to mess around with, which is we use a no conversions label for any ad group, keyword, or whatever that hasn't produced any conversions at all. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get rid of it because in some cases we have a low conversion ad group that might have more ads running in it and we just don't have conversions on that particular ad, but we don't have enough data to tell it's any different. And group W is one that we use for things that are high volume, but the ROI isn't quite where we want it to be because those are things that really become a priority. And so those are already going to be in group C, but we'll also apply a group W to the highest volume ad groups typically within group C. And so now you're ready. You've got all of the data labeled up, and now you can go and actually run these what if scenarios and start to think about things about, well, like what if I just ran just the group A ad groups, just the top performing highest volume ad groups. Well, for this particular client, they'd be looking at, well, a pretty substantial reduction in cost, but also a pretty substantial drop in the number of leads if they base it on the benchmark. But they could get 48% of the leads, so basically half of the leads for a third of the cost. And if you're running close to break even, that can be the difference between going from break even to being extremely profitable, even if you're not running as much volume. And you can do this same kind of what if scenario based on ads or keywords or ad groups or even, well, campaigns. If you have large enough campaigns, you can say, well, gosh, what if we kill all of the group C and group D campaigns? What would that do to our performance? And you just go through, filter your report, whether it's your ad groups or your campaigns or your keywords or your ads, and filter by label and pick that one label that you want to look at, or you can use more than one label. And then at the bottom, it'll show you on the report all the total performance for all of the filtered ads, and you can look at that and say, oh my gosh, that performance is this much better, that much better. In this case, for this client, we're looking at a $90 value per lead, and so they wouldn't really be more profitable if we did this. But what if they were running at half that value per lead? They'd want to do this immediately. What we like to do when we're working with clients and doing, typically we're doing rebuilds for clients that have come in and they've had somebody else running their campaigns or they've been running them themselves. What we like to do is put the labeling in, and then we'll go through and look at what would it look like if we just ran group A? What would it look like if we just ran group B? What's group C doing for us? What's group D doing for us? So that we can make intelligent decisions and recommendations for our client. And it's also very easy for our client to understand with a visualization like this. So for you consultants out there, you might want to look at setting something like this up out of the reporting that you generate from AdWords before you go to your client and tell them to go start looking at labels in their AdWords account. So that's the process. Now let's talk about kind of the strategy for how you use this to rebuild or improve the ROI. So first of all, anything that's in group A or group B, anything that is delivering positive ROI for you, you would prefer to keep that in the campaign that it's in. So if you're looking at an ad group, you don't want to move that ad group if you don't have to, because the history and stuff like that is really important to be able to keep the performance going. Now, it's not a big deal to move it and let it start over again, but you'd rather not take the hit on history if you don't have to. But what you would like to do is create, rather than keeping all of the group C and group D stuff in your main campaign where they're eating up budget that might be taken away from stuff that is more profitable, you want to create one or more testing campaigns. So what we'll typically do if we have a high volume account where there's 10, 20, $30,000 a month or more in spend, we'll want to go through and break that up into at least two testing campaigns. So there will be a testing campaign that we set up that will catch all of the group C ad groups and another one that will catch all of the group D ad groups so that we can work on those and try to improve their performance. But we can do that in a way where we're able to limit the budget and contain the amount of so-called damage, right, that they're doing. Now, group W, stuff that would be group C ad groups that have high volume and are close to performing but not quite. Those are the ones that are going to get the highest priority in terms of us trying to fix it. In fact, in a lot of cases, we can just go through and look at the labeling on the ads and the keywords and say, well, we just need to knock out these keywords and these ads, and the performance will actually be above par, and we'll be able to leave it right where it is and put it into group A. But most of the time, in terms of actually growing and improving, increasing the amount of revenue and profit that you get, most of the time your best opportunity is actually in working on stuff that's in group A, working on stuff that is already improving. If you want to break it down simply and visually, everything in group A is stuff that you'd like to increase the volume if you can, because, well, you're already getting some volume, but you'd certainly like to get more. And if possible, you might as well try to increase the ROI, but you'd probably be willing to give up even a little bit of that ROI to increase the volume, as that a lot of the time will mean things like increasing bids. With Group B, these are things that have a low volume of conversions, but they're profitable, and so you'd really like to increase the volume, get more conversions, and try to move them into Group A. The stuff in Group C you want to either fix, which means it's probably going to move into Group A, although if you're getting rid of a bunch of stuff that was bad and keeping just a few good things, it might move into Group B, but you want to fix it or stop running it. And the stuff in Group D, well, most of the time that's an extremely small amount of your cost, and in a lot of cases it's just a matter we don't have enough conversions to really know. And so in a lot of cases you want to just let that run, but make that a conscious decision that you're either going to let it run and fix it later, or you're going to stop it and fix it later. And that all depends on how the math works for you and the business that you're working for. Now, I could go on for days about this stuff, but, well, there are really only going to be two kinds of people watching this. There are going to be people that look at this and say, heck, that's easy, I'll do that myself, no problem. And there are going to be people that are looking at this and going, gee, can I get some help? Well, yes, you can. And in fact, we'd be willing to do it for you for free. Now, we might want to have a conversation with you about whether you'd be better off letting us manage your campaigns. But even if you're not interested in that, even if you don't want to talk to us about it, we're happy to run the audit for you and put the labels on there at least so that you can more easily go through and do the analysis yourself. If you want to do that, if you'd like to take advantage of this offer, simply send an email to me. Send a copy of that email to Brett at Marketers Brain Trust. I am Dan at marketersbraintrust.com. And what we'd like to see in that email, if you can, is send us your AdWords customer ID. That's the number that's at the top right of the screen when you're logged into your AdWords account. Let us know what your approximate budget is, and most of the time that's simply what are you spending approximately per month right now. What is your target in terms of ROI or cost per action? So if you're generating leads, let us know. I'd like to get, these leads, we're getting them for $40. We'd really rather get them for $30. Or I'm a retailer and we'd really rather get 5 times revenue over ad spend as opposed to 4 times revenue over ad spend. And of course, let us know the URL of your website. We'll get back in touch with you. We'll swap some information. We'll get access to your Google Analytics. We'll get access to your Google AdWords account with your permission. And then we'll run some tools and we'll do an audit for you and we'll deliver the results back for you in typically 3 to 5 days. Either way, if you're going to do it yourself or if you'd like to have us do it, thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week with a little bit more stuff for retailers on how to improve the performance of your shopping campaigns.